I am continuously in awe of women's bodies, our monthly cycles, and all that we go through as it relates to having a womb. So come and take a listen as I share some candid thoughts around my period and my journey as I'm walking through menopause currently. Do you ever wonder why it feels so difficult being a woman? Why so often it feels like we are trying to race against time, to show no signs of aging, to be pleasing to everyone, to be in constant service, and to play to the almighty male gaze. If you are tired of living under this construct and know that deep down there's this sense and this longing that there was more to this life, I assure you, there is. And that is why I have created my 2-day event, Magnetic, which will be happening November 2nd and 3rd in Phoenix, Arizona, where I will guide you through a 4-step process for living the most magnetic, expansive, exquisite life as a woman. These are the rules written by women, not by patriarchal standards that have kept us silenced, have kept us controlled, and have kept us in endless small boxes. Come and learn the art of the feminine, intuitive way. Welcome to your emotional makeover. Things your mother never told you because no one ever told her. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Hansen. This is where you reimagine womanhood. Let us begin. Today's episode is a tribute to women's cycles. Oh my gosh. When I really stop and think about how much a woman's body goes through from, let's say on average, a 12-year-old girl until a 52-year-old woman, give or take, that many decades of cycling, the fact that our body has this incredibly intricate system that bleeds every single month and never dies and starts the cycle all over again to happen on average just 4 weeks later again. And then as you approach that later stage in your life, the perimenopause and the menopause, which is where I'm at now, there is so much that is unpredictable about your body and what is happening. So I'm going to tell you a personal story right now. So we are in, what month are we in right now? We are in October, end of October. I had this past February, I had no period it was the first time I'd ever missed a period. And I'm 51 years old. So I missed my period in February and I went 5 months without a period. And I thought, oh, well, I guess this is it. And I know typically it's supposed to be a full year of no period at all before you can officially say you've gone through menopause. While there will still be some residual symptoms on the other side, of course. So I thought, well, my gosh, I'm almost halfway there. I'm 5 months already. And I was having a lot of mixed feelings about it. There was a part of me that was sad to let that monthly shed go. But then there was so much that felt really expansive and convenient. And I didn't have to have all of my supplies with me all the time. I didn't have to wonder, worry. I didn't have to plan things in my calendar as to, oh gosh, well, this will probably be the couple of days where I'm not feeling as energetic. This is where I might need some more rest. So it was really starting to feel kind of incredible, those 5 months. And then a few months ago, I did get a period. And then about 5 weeks later after that, I got another one and it only lasted for 2 days. And I thought, okay, well, this is what you hear, that sometimes they can be really short or really long. They're very irregular. There's no predictable schedule to them. And they don't necessarily come every 28 days like they used to as you are in this menopause stage. So I have been having just a few more periods and I am currently on a period right now. And wow, this feels like the tsunami of periods. And I think that's so important that we talk about this, especially in a culture that has shamed women for bleeding, made us feel like it is somehow dirty, it is somehow wrong, it is somehow a contaminant, that we need to do something about the mess, the bloat, the smell, any of it. I wanted to come on and just talk openly about the realities of it. And the fact that we go through this every single month and are still more or less expected to be functioning in every other aspect of our life, it would be like asking someone who was having mild heart attack symptoms, or as some studies show, more intense heart attack symptoms, to still go to work and still do the things they need to do, care for the children, or make sure that all things in your life are taken care of. And I thought, wouldn't it be incredible if we had a world that was set up that when a woman was in the part of, and it's a little bit different for every woman. For me, when I'm actually bleeding, the first 48 hours of bleeding are the most intense for me for in my entire month. They're the time that I need the most rest and solitude. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be incredible to build a life around that schedule? And I know a lot of women who are really actively, proactively creating that lifestyle for themselves. And that would have been incredible. I mean, I remember having to go to work. I remember taking my kids on field trips. I remember having a big family travel day. We were like wrangling all of the kids through airports, and I was on my first day of my period. So, of course, I can't just cancel an entire family vacation. But when I think about how much we manage as women while we are bleeding and feeling all of the feelings we are feeling internally in our physical body, in our womb space, and managing having to go to the bathroom and make sure that we are changing our pad or our tampon on a regular basis. It's so much to hold. And I remember somebody even asking me many, many years ago, my thoughts about why girls or women mature so much faster than young boys. And I attribute it to the fact that, well, young girls really don't have an option, because if you get your period when you're 11, 12, or even 13, you can't just decide not to do anything about it. You can't just decide not to pack pads or tampons. You can't decide not to go to the bathroom throughout the day in school to change. You have to be very aware, and even in the way that you sit and the way that you get up and the way that there's so many, and women, you know what I'm talking about. There's so much that goes into that process, so much emotional labor that is taken up in such a very young age, and almost where an innocence of childhood gets a little bit lost because you're so consumed with worrying about, oh my gosh, is my pad showing? Do I have blood on my underwear, or do I have blood on my pants? Do people know? Did I pack enough pads? How many hours has it been since I've last changed this tampon? What if it's about to start leaking? Oh my gosh, I'm about to go to gym and I've never worn a tampon before, and I think this pad is going to show through my gym uniform. There's so much that we are consumed by that I think in many ways we in those formative years miss a lot of what's happening around us. And when I'm talking about miss, I mean miss and as it relates to enjoyability. I feel like we can't fully enjoy certain pieces and parts of our life at that age. Sometimes even when you're older, I know I've been to many events or parties where maybe my outfit got ruined because of blood, or I didn't bring the proper amount of pads or tampons that I needed. And so I had to kind of time how many I had and what time I would have to leave the party. And it just kind of removes some of the freedom of enjoyability for the moments. So that was one thing I considered and had thought a lot about many, many years ago. But now here I am having this period that feels like the tsunami of periods, where there was one point last night, I have the heating pad. I had two heating pads going, one on my back, one on my womb space. And I had a moment where I actually had the feeling of like I was giving birth. It was so intense. It reminded me of my childbirth experiences with my children. And I was laying in the bed in the middle of the night and really like moaning through it and trying to move some of that tension and energy out, vocally to release it from my womb space and my body. I was doing a lot of hip circles and kind of rocking. And it dawned on me, I am birthing. I'm birthing a new version of me. I'm birthing a version of me that didn't have this level of wisdom, didn't have access to this new era that I'm stepping into. I mean, there's so much to learn still and so much territory to traverse. But just as I'm like this baby in the crone era, which I know for a lot of people that's a word they don't like to use, but I really love that word. I want to and have been fully embracing that word for a couple of years. Stepping into that crone, it just is like such a powerful archetype as I see it in my mind's eye. I already have the vision of that crone version of me in my even 90s and beyond. Such a wisdom holder and keeper. And I really started connecting with in my bed last night this version of me that was being birthed, that was coming through. And I don't think any coincidence, the fact that my live event Magnetic is 2.5 weeks away. And because of the unpredictability of my cycle now, and because it's not on a 28-day cycle that I can follow along easily, I was going to have to be fully prepared. In my mind, I thought, well, I could very well start while I'm standing on the stage of Magnetic. And I have to be prepared for that. And I also know what comes with those first 2 days. And I thought, wouldn't that be the biggest bummer to be at this 2-day event from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., where I am on stage and I am teaching and there's performing and so much happening. And I am in that first 48 hours of my period. I mean, that would be probably the worst timing ever. And so for a couple of weeks, I've been talking myself through this, like, okay, what are all the safeguards? What can you do in case that does happen? How can you, best support yourself through that? So I've already been preparing for that. And then it's as if my body just knew. My body decided to go ahead and take care of the whole entire situation for me and bring my period to me at this time. So my bleeding started yesterday. So I not only am bleeding now, but I will be at like my peak performance when I take the stage at Magnetic in 2.5 weeks. And I find that to be such divine timing. It's like my body just knew. My body wanted to do this really big tsunami energy period 2.5 weeks before Magnetic to get me primed and ready to be in my most magnetic phase and energy. So I think when we are really working with our body and we are deeply in tuned with our body, that it really works with us as well. And as this phase of my life, as I'm stepping into it more and more, I was describing this to someone this morning. I remember when I was pregnant and I was in the final weeks of my pregnancy, like the final weeks, literally. I was 2 weeks late with my first, so I was 42 weeks, and I was 41 weeks with my second. But I'm in the very final stages of the pregnancy. And it was that feeling of like, I don't think my skin can stretch one more millimeter. I don't think I can sleep one more night with my belly being this big. I don't think I can do one more day like this. Now I'm just uncomfortable. I'm ready for this baby to come. And I think it's Mother Nature's way of preparing you to be ready. And with this tsunami period that I'm having, I am certain that it is my body's way of saying, okay, are you ready? Are you ready to be done? Because when I didn't have a period for 5 months, I was kind of back and forth, feeling a little bit sad about not having it any longer. I've heard women referred to who stopped having their periods really missing that monthly release. And I was having some of that feeling. But now with this really intense period that I'm experiencing, I believe it is Mother Nature's way of signaling me that I'm getting closer to the end. And this much energy that is flowing through me has me feeling like, okay, yes, I think I'm ready to release the reins. I'm ready to, and that when actually I remember when I had that thought last night laying in bed, like I'm ready to release the reins of this monthly cycle. I trust my body is ready to venture into the next stage. As I was saying that, I noticed that it was moments later, this incredible vision of birthing came over me. And it was this birthing of myself. And so I'll keep you posted on this journey. I just think, we don't hear enough about women telling their real-time stories as it's occurring. I'm not on any HRT. I'm doing absolutely nothing as it relates to hormones. I feel very strongly personally. I know it's a very individual decision. I've made that very personal decision for myself, and it feels really good and really aligned for me. And I am excited and looking forward to what I get to step into. I've also heard some women say that when you're fully through that menopausal phase, there are these peak performance moments where you start to, as your brain starts to recalibrate in a way it never has before. The optimization is so incredible, and it is so clear, and it is so, I've heard a few women refer to, I felt like my brain was 18 again. It just, because there is this period of time, while I don't really have symptoms other than an erratic period or not having a period for 5 months, I have noticed, and I think I shared this in another episode, one of the symptoms I have experienced is my depth perception. If I'm going downstairs or if I'm in a room and a room that I'm not familiar with. And like, let's say a hotel, and they have a large rug, and I'm walking in the hotel on the tile floor, and then all of a sudden there's a rug, and then it changes, you walk across the rug and then you walk back onto the tile. Visually, not physically, but visually, as I'm approaching it, the depth perception, the version of me even several months ago would have been like, oh, yes, that is the tile, that is the rug. And now my brain has this moment where I have to really look at it because I almost perceive it as a step down. Like it's a step rather than a rug or a change in material. And so I have noticed that I'm walking extra careful and cautiously because that depth perception, when it changes in texture, sometimes presents as if it's a step rather than just a change in material. So I would say for me, that has been the biggest thing. And so, yeah, I will just keep sharing as I move along, but I think it's so incredibly fascinating. I just want to take a moment to honor every single woman and what we go through in our bodies. It is absolutely astounding and so miraculous. And I'm so wildly thankful to be inhabiting this body and being able to bear witness to all of the cycles, all of the changes. It just amazes me. My husband said to me last night, it's fascinating to watch how you ride all these different waves and how your body goes through so many different journeys and iterations as it relates to your feminine cycle, and how you keep showing up and asking the question, how can I best support my body? What do I need to do now? He's very used to hearing me either in the bed, moaning and releasing that tension, or in a very hot bath or shower, sitting on the floor and just moaning and rocking and releasing that tension from my body, and using the heating pad and warm teas seemed to be incredibly helpful. And for many years, I used my cycle as a time, as I've shared before, as I bled and as I shed, I always asked myself the question, what do you need to release, Amanda? What limited beliefs do you need to release? What alliances do you need to release? How much more can you decolonize yourself? Where have you been hiding? What needs to be shed? What storylines no longer serve you? So that's been a really beautiful practice that I have used as a ritual while I am cycling and bleeding in particular. And I am using this particular bleed to shed any limited or outdated versions of me that served me so beautifully and so well, but will not serve me for where I'm going. Because like the saying goes, what got me here won't necessarily get me there. And I feel that there is a new version of me that really needs to literally, figuratively, metaphorically take the stage and claim it in a way that I know I wouldn't have been ready for 2 years ago. That's the version of me that I'm birthing. And I think it's so incredibly timely and symbolic because I will actually be on the stage in 2.5 weeks. So thank you for listening. I wanted to create a space where there could just be really raw, unfiltered conversation. I mean, all of my podcasts are real and unfiltered, but real and unfiltered as it relates to our periods and all that we go through in our journey as women. We are fucking rock stars. I'm just in awe. I don't know why we are not being carried through the streets on these like beautiful silk beds and just paraded around and celebrated. It's just really exquisite. And I'm really proud of us for the ways we just keep showing up. So to you and your cycle, wherever you are, if you are currently missing cycles or you haven't had one, I'm honoring you. I'm honoring whatever phase, stage you are in as it relates to your womb and your ovaries. If you no longer have them, I'm honoring you as well. None of those things make us any less of a woman. The potentiality of the universe lives inside of you regardless. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I would love to hear your feedback. Message me on Instagram or write a review. And of course, if you know a woman who could benefit from this episode, please share it with her because it can heal her life. And that's what sisters do. Love always, Dr. Amanda.